Welcome to Carrington, as really we're touching base here in front of our own Sky cameras for the first time to see Michael Carrick's side in training, of course with his new backroom staff, the likes of Jonathan Woodgate, Steve Holland, Johnny Evans, all present as well, Travis Binion too. And to give you some kind of team news immediately, I can let you know that Matthias de Ligt, Joshua Zirkzee not in training this morning. Now, de Ligt's missed the last 9 Premier League games with injury, and Joshua Zirkzee we saw in the stands for the Manchester derby. Looks unlikely to be involved against Arsenal, you could say, for this weekend. We'll see if he's back for Fulham the following weekend. But of course, this group of players will be still pretty jubilant and really pleased with what was probably their best performance, of course, this season against Manchester City in that 2-0 win in the Manchester derby on Saturday.
And Dan, obviously there's been a lot of talk about who is leading training. Right now it looks like Michael Carrick is pretty hands-on. What's been the roles and responsibilities of Steve Holland, Jonathan Woodgate, Johnny Evans? What have you noticed?
Well, it's very interesting, Leanne. I mean, first of all, before the players came out, and I can tell you what kind of we just saw on the eye, and as a group they were looking to plan the session, and it's very interesting with Michael Carrick. I mean, we saw it at Middlesbrough, we saw it under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer during his time at the club, that Michael Carrick, as well as Kieran McKenna, we knew led a lot of the sessions at that time in this club's history. Carrick very hands-on in terms of his coaching, and then you have his assistant next to him, Jonathan Woodgate, who was his assistant at Middlesbrough, of course, helps lead the sessions. But then you have the balance of 2 relatively newer coaches, and those 2 with Steve Holland as well, with that experience, of course, at Chelsea for so many years, as well as England, being, the right-hand man to Gareth Southgate as well. But even his reputation at England was very much the hands-on coaching day-to-day, running drills. So it's all very interesting and clearly a very different setup to maybe under Ruben Amorim.
And Dan, for someone like yourself, right, that's been around the club, last couple of years now, what have you noticed they brought to the team? Because I'm not having that the players turned on that performance in just 3 days of him being there. So what do you think he's done that's like magically turned things around so quickly?
It's really interesting, Leanne. I mean, I think, it'll be little things like perhaps making their days at the training ground short. I'm sure you can relate, Leanne, to when you were playing. Different coaches have different methods, and of course this team has 1 game a week. And from what I've been told, the way their days look at the moment are a bit shorter, a bit more intense while they're here at Carrington. But they also have a bit more of that free time, and maybe just around the training ground, everything feels a bit less intense, I would probably say is fair. I mean, when we arrived, the players came out, and they all seemed very happy to say hello to Carrick. And I'm not saying they didn't under Amorim, but clearly there were some unhappy players in this squad. The likes of Kobbie Mainoo, who put in a man-of-the-match performance against City, his first league start, would you believe it, on Saturday. Just think all of that contributes to what seems like a more positive atmosphere. But what I'll tell you, Leanne, is of course they have Arsenal this weekend, but I don't know if you agree, I feel like the bigger game is almost against Fulham the following week at Old Trafford, to see how they'll look to play week to week.
Yeah, and in terms of players, you mentioned Kobbie Mainoo there. Which players do you think will benefit most from this change of head coach?
Well, change of head coach brings a change of system, doesn't it, Tom? And as we saw against Manchester City, they defended 4-4-2, but went forward in a bit more of a 4-2-3-1. And Kobbie Mainoo, of course, really benefited from that. I mean, we saw all of his talent on that occasion. But really, I mean, you look at a lot of these players, I mean, you could almost, look, I've said all month that United are unlikely to do any business this window, but you almost hope that some of these players could be like new signings. I mean, Manuel Ugarte is someone who has struggled a little bit in the last, 6 to 8 months or so with his form, but he had a positive cameo on the weekend. Patrick Dorgu was absolutely fantastic in the Manchester derby, but also following a bit more of an upward trajectory in the last few weeks as well. So you do feel like there's a lot more potential in the squad that wasn't maybe being exploited under Ruben Amorim, and that all feels a lot more positive, especially when you consider that they have 1 game a week. They have so much more time on the training ground than all of their competitors around them, chasing that Champions League spot, and that has to be a benefit, and that's what Michael Carrick and his staff will be trying to deliver in these sessions that hopefully go into more positive results. I mean, this United team have really struggled to put together consistent results, and that will be the biggest challenge for this team, I think, post-Arsenal, whatever happens in that game after the weekend.
Yeah. OK, Dan, thank you.
Nice one, Dan, thanks.
In terms of their strikers and their victory as well. With Victor Gyökeres, he has come in for a lot of criticism this season. What have you made of that? Yes, it was a big price tag, We're only just over halfway through the season, his first season.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I did a show of you a couple of months ago where Wayne Rooney said, when we were discussing, Wayne Rooney said he was a top 3 in the Premier League at this moment in time. And I don't know, like, I respect Wazza, he's a top man, but like, I look at Gyökeres and sometimes it takes longer for players to adjust. But the concern for me is that he doesn't do enough. I think when you watch the games live, the movement is just, it's very pedestrian, it's very static. What I saw last night against Inter, he looked more dynamic. I spoke about the run earlier on in the show for the goal that he actually scored where the ball fell to him from Saka. But like, he needs to have that explosiveness in the Premier League. You cannot be slow and get to those levels in the Prem. You just can't. The days are gone where you sit in front of the player and you're occupying those spaces in between the lines. Do you know what I mean? So I think, like, at the weekend, I think if Kai Havertz was fit and healthy, I think he's going with Kai Havertz in that position. But then isn't it amazing that Arsenal fans and people, there was this main thing around Arsenal wasn't winning the Premier League because they didn't have a number 9. Now they've got him through the door and everyone's now saying bring in Jesus. But Jesus was there before and he wasn't scoring. But if I'm choosing between these two for the weekend, I'm going with Jesus because I don't think Havertz is fit yet. Although he's in the squad, it doesn't seem like he's ready because I just think Jesus offers a little bit more. You know, he's mobile, he's moving around, he's running the channels, he's making himself busy. Whereas Gyökeres, for me, I don't think he does enough. But his goal last night, fantastic. And that might be, you know, the type of confidence that he needs. I don't think the goal against Chelsea is going to do anything for him, to be honest. You know, a goal's a goal.
The message there at the bottom of the screen from Dave says that actually play Jesus, Gyökeres and Saka as kind of a front three. So assuming they're saying to put Jesus left wing.
Mikel Arteta's not going to do that. That's not a bad shout, to be honest, but I can't see Mikel Arteta doing that at all. And to be fair, like, Bukayo Saka this year, I love Bukayo Saka, but he hasn't been great. You know, maybe he looks over like he's played a lot of games, so it's good they're able to rest him because there was a moment in time at Arsenal where they weren't able to rest players, Tom, was they? You know, do you remember when they were going through that bad run? And I remember it was solely responsible for Emile Smith-Rowe and Saka to kind of carry the team. Look how far Arsenal have come from there. Declan Rice, Zubimendi, I love Declan Rice and Zubimendi. Odegaard also hasn't even been performing to the levels that they know he can either. So it'll be interesting to see team selection because a lot of people are calling for Norgard to play. But it's a good problem for Mikel Arteta to have because when Pep Guardiola and City were winning the treble and winning trophies, they had 2-3 players in every position, didn't they? Arsenal, I think, have that luxury now where they were always one injury away from losing the league. Look what's happened now. They lost Declan Rice for a couple of games. They won the games that he was unavailable for. Do I think they could sustain that throughout the season? No, because I think, for me, I genuinely think Declan Rice has been the best player in the Premier League this season. I think he has been unbelievable. Like, what a player he is. But the fact they were able to still continue to push without, when players like Saliba got injured, when Gabriel got injured, when Declan Rice was injured, shows me that Arsenal have turned the corner this year. Because last year, do you remember when people were getting injured? That was it. It was like, oh, the title race is done.
Well, can Liverpool turn a corner? We're going to be talking about them next. They face Marseille in the Champions League tonight. But should Mohamed Salah go straight back into the starting line?